One of the things I often tell people is do not play with a Ouija board, because Ouija boards are essentially a doorway. And when you open that door, anything can come through. Um, it's almost like setting up this beacon up in the air, and you are inviting everything to come into your life. Now, I heard this story. There was this young boy named Colton, and Colton and his buddies decided they were going to play with a Ouija board one night. And, they had fun. They didn't know how this pendulum was moving by itself, and, it kind of thrilled them and everything, but they didn't think anything of it. So Colton, he takes the Ouija board and he puts it in his closet. Later that night, when he's sleeping, he starts hearing like a banging sound in his closet. And all of a sudden, when he jumps up out of bed, he looks over at his closet and the door slowly opens. And he gets up and looks in the closet. There's no one in there. So he's like, that's kind of weird, but he kind of shakes it off, right? The next night, when he's in his bedroom once again, right? He's laying down in his bed. He can't sleep. All of a sudden, he hears this banging sound again coming from the closet, and the closet door opens by itself. The next morning, when he wakes up, he finds the Ouija board is sitting on his bed. So he thinks, you know what? I am done with this Ouija board. I shouldn't have messed with it. I'm done with this. So he takes it out back and he starts a fire, and he starts trying to burn this Ouija board. As he's burning this thing and it's on fire, he hears just disembodied voices. He hears screams, and he thinks, okay, this thing is just ashes now. Everything's fine. Well, it was for a couple weeks, nothing happened. Until one night, he wakes up, and he said he just felt like the air was very thick. And he had his bedroom door open at the time. Well, all of a sudden, his bedroom door slams shut, and his bed just starts shaking violently. And he said, it felt like there was an earthquake. He jumps out of bed, and stuff on his shelf just starts flying at him across the room. And so he, is running to the door, trying to get the door open, but something is holding it shut. He starts screaming, for his parents. And when his parents come, the door unlocks. He opens the door, and he tells his parents, what had happened. They don't believe him. So he said, things just kept getting significantly worse. And every night he was just tormented by something. And he said, about 6-7 months into this happening, right, this thing tormenting him, he goes over to his grandma's house one day. And when he walks into his grandma's house and stuff, he starts talking to her, and he looks over on a shelf. She has a Ouija board on the shelf. And he's like, wait a second, that is the Ouija board that I burned in the fire, the box and everything. And he goes, Grandma, where did you get that? Do you know what that is? And she goes, oh, no, honey, someone left a board game on my front door. And so I brought it in, but I couldn't figure out how to play it. And he said, give me that. And he grabbed it, and he takes off running with it, right? So he takes it out into the woods. He buries this thing. And he thinks, okay, maybe this is the end of it. And once again, same thing every night. Just stuff is happening. Stuff's flying across the room. His bed is shaking, he starts waking up with scratches all over his body. He starts smelling a very foul sulfur smell in his room. And so he goes to a person who is a paranormal investigator and says, what do I do? I ever since I've messed with this Ouija board, something has been following me and attached to me. And this paranormal investigator said, well, basically, you need to go take this Ouija board and, say that I renounce you. I do not accept you into my life. I am not inviting you. You need to leave. So he goes back out into the woods where he had buried this Ouija board, except it's dug up and it's not there anymore. And so he said, after that, it sort of, everything stopped for a little while. It came back, but it was very sporadic. But he said still to this day, like, stuff happens to him from messing with the Ouija board.
Hey, TikTok. So you guys like real, true, creepy, scary stories? Well, I got a ton of stories like that. And the thing about my stories are is they're true. They either happen to me or somebody that I know personally. Guys, that's the only type of stories I tell. So if you don't like content like that, please scroll away right now. But for everybody that follows me on with the story, and I call this one the Ouija board. Now, guys, let me tell you, about 27, 28 years ago, I actually had a date with a young lady that I was seeing at the time, and we had gone to the mall. It was back when the mall was a big thing, right? And we thought it'd be fun, and we went into like Spencer's Gifts. A lot of people remember that. And in the back, they had Ouija boards. Your boy here bought one, right? Now, guys, 30 years ago, I didn't believe stuff like that. I'm like, nah, can't be nothing to this, right? Can't be. Well, you see, guys, I had this thing. We took it out of the pack. We looked at it. I mean, come on. It's made by one of the major game companies, right? And I didn't think much about it. Well, now, guys, the girl that I had a date with, she had a best friend. And how can I say this in a nice way? This young lady was a bit, for people who remember, goth, okay? And as soon as she found out that I had this Ouija board, she had a great idea. We were going to go down to a kind of a rest area that's way out in the country, a whole bunch of people. There was a bunch of us around. We were going to play with this thing, right? Now, a lot of people have stories like this, but this is mine. Guys, we went down there one night, like everybody would do. We sat down. There's, I don't know, I think 2 or 3 girls, 2 or 3 guys. Wasn't a lot of us. As always, we got us like a little lantern-looking thing. We lit it up like a battery-powered flashlight. Kind of fall of the year, you can imagine. It was a little bit cooler. Had some candles and stuff, for effect. You guys know. And we started playing with this thing. We started asking it questions, right? And of course, I'm the guy that bought it, so I'm like, hey, let's see what this thing does. Well, guys, we're asking it questions. It's moving, and as everybody does, oh, no, you're moving it. You're moving the cursor thing. No, you're moving it. Guys, we got to talking, for everybody that believes in these things, to a spirit, so to speak, because where this rest area is, it's located close to like a church and a graveyard, okay? And then on the other side of the road, another church, right? We were sitting at the little rest area that's down from them. And the girl that I had a date with, it was like her best friend, which is very goth kind of. She says, are you in that particular graveyard over there? And this spirit entity starts going real fast. Yes, I am, and blah, blah, blah. And she says, are you like a young person, like a child or something? And he goes, yes, just real quick. Right? All right, no big deal. I'm still not buying it. I'm a hard sell, guys. And then all of a sudden, she did something I will never, ever forget. She said, well, if you're the only one there, could you look around and find us somebody else to talk to? And it goes over, yes, right? Then all of a sudden, we're going around in a circle there. She says, hey, is there somebody new here that wants to communicate with us? And all of a sudden, in this like real slow manner, it goes up a little bit and then zoop, right up to yes. All right? And this thing starts proceeding to tell us what we've got on and everything. And here's the real creepy part of this story, guys. We started asking it like real personal questions, like people there, like what did this person have done the other day at the doctor? What how much more school do we lack and all this? And it's getting it right. And of course, everybody's like, no, 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 this is a joke. No, no, no. Guys, we took our hands, the young lady that was friends with me, like, it kind of struck a nerve with her. That's all I'm going to say. She jerked her hand off the cursor, and when she did, it kind of scared me. And I jerked my hand off the cursor. And guys, I watched this thing, the cursor there, keep moving. Now, most people would just say, oh, to heck with it, right? It's fake. But as a much younger man, I said, I ain't leaving this thing. I paid like $10 for it, and I stuck it in the trunk of the car. I carried it home, guys. Got it out of the trunk of the car. Carried it in my bedroom upstairs. I was about 16, 17 years old. Set it over there. I didn't think much about it. Well, you know, a few days goes by, and I heard something. I cannot prove it, guys, but inside the thing, in the wrapping of it, you know, you laid the board in there, and there was like this other piece of cardboard that went on top of it that held the cursor. Now, in all of my fright that night, I guess you could say, when we were there last at that little rest area, I could have sworn I put the board back in, and I put the cardboard back in, and I put the cursor in it. But guys, I thought I heard something one night. I was sitting there in my bedroom. I got up, I walked over there, I took the top off, I looked down in there, cardboard wasn't there, and it made that sound of that cursor. It's like a plastic one moving inside that box. Well, I put the top back on it, guys, and I thought, nah, I'm scared myself. And I sat there for a good 30 minutes, didn't hear anything else. Thought, you know what, better not keep this thing in the house if there's something to this. So I carried it and I put it in the trunk of the car. Well, wasn't long, like young people do. Friday night, we're out and about, we're uptown. You guys can imagine. It was starting to get to be cooler weather. It had been about a month, and this thing was back there. I totally forgot about it. Guys, I was sitting there one night. I had pulled in a fast food restaurant kind of on the main strip. For all my Gen X folks, you know, we were out riding the old boulevard, and it got cold. The windows were rolled up, hadn't even started the car. I'd been in the restaurant, got something to eat, and I sat down. And I'm telling you, I had a Honda Civic, had the back seats laid down. It was a four-door car. And I could have sworn, when I listened back there, I heard that flipping cursor moving inside that box. And I wasn't moving at all. Yeah. And finally, guys, I just took the thing. I found me an old dumpster out behind some buildings one night, and away it went. But anyways, there's you guys another real true creepy scary story that happened to your old boy here. You guys have a great day.
A homemade Ouija board story. Let's get into it. So today's story was sent in by Mrs. Morales Adventures here on TikTok. She sent this story a while back, and I've been saving it because it is utterly terrifying, but I figured today was the day to post it, so let's get into it. Hey love, I wanted to share my story with you. When I was about 12 years old, we had a birthday party for my nephew, and we had invited everyone to my parents' house. We had a moonwalk and everything. My cousins decided to go back inside the house into my room and create a paper Ouija board. I was outside helping my family during the party and had no idea what was currently happening inside. I noticed I couldn't find any of my cousins, so I went to look for them. I found them in my room with the lights dimmed in a circle and saying things I did not understand. Turned on the lights and asked them what they were doing, and they crumpled the paper and threw it behind them. As soon as I stepped inside the room, it felt off and just eerie. I went towards them and asked them to show me. Of course, they wouldn't. I tried to snatch the paper from them because they were horseplaying with it, so I wouldn't get it. I managed to take it away from them, and let me tell you, I should have not. They were playing the game and asking things to whomever was there. They said it was just a paper. I'm sure it didn't work. Well, they were wrong. I tried to ignore it, but I did tell my mom, and she told them all to go outside. And I kid you not, as I was standing there, I felt something staring at me. We left the room, and later, after everyone had left, I had come back to the room to go to sleep. I was going through some of the pictures I had taken in several locations during the party, and behind the two cousins that had the Ouija board, there was a dark shadow. At first I thought it was their shadow, but no, this was different. I shook it off and laid back down to go to bed. I was scared, so I told my parents and asked if they could leave their door open so I could see inside their room. They said yes, plus we even left the restroom door cracked with the light on. I felt uneasy and felt something was watching me in the dark. I remember that night vividly. I couldn't sleep. I felt something go on top of my bed, and I quickly tried to get up, but I was too slow. A dark shadow came on top of me and held me down. I could see that it was dark and cloudy, but I could still see through it. I started kicking, and I saw my legs kicking in the air behind it. My arms were pinned down, so I couldn't move them. I was screaming, but nothing, no sound would come out. I kept seeing my legs kicking nonstop. I wiggled and squirmed so much that I got to move my arms, and I finally got to kick off the cover I had, and when it fell to the floor, I heard a loud thump, like something had hit hard. Once that happened, I was able to scream. My parents came running and thought I had fallen down since they heard the loud sound too. But you see, it wasn't me. They turned the light on, and nothing was there. I told them what happened, and my mom stayed the night with me. I was eventually able to sleep on and off. The next morning, I made my mother throw away that blanket since I was so scared and paranoid. My mom did get rid of it. My grandma came into town the next day and blessed my room. The air felt much more relaxed and cleaned after her blessing, and after that, everything went back to normal. What do you think happened? Any suggestions? I've never been able to get answers. Whew, that is scary. See, my thing is, I think that you can safely use a Ouija board, but there are things that you have to do in order to safely do that. Either way, whenever you have any type of communication with the spirit, you are opening a doorway where it allows things to come to you. It's a lifeline, per se. So I think that, first of all, you should never make a Ouija board. That's a big no-no, because if something's not correct, that just makes things worse. And if you don't know what you're doing or how to close things down properly or protect yourself properly, things like this happen. So it sounds like to me that obviously your cousins didn't know what they were doing because they were kids, and either it woke something up that was already there or something was invited in. Luckily, it sounds like whatever it was, since your grandma, cleansed and everything, she was able to get it out, which is good, because if it was something a little bit darker, then you probably wouldn't have been able to get rid of it with just a simple cleansing. But that is freaking terrifying, and I'm so glad that she was able to get it away, and that you only had one experience, even though this experience is absolutely horrifying, and I know I would be traumatized for life by it. Thank you so much to Mrs. Morales Adventures for sending this in. She also has some other stories that she's going to share eventually, so be on the lookout for those. But, as always, if you have anything that you would like to send in, you can send it to my email. My question for you is, what would you have done in this situation? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, stay close to the light.
And this is why you should never play with a Ouija board in a cemetery, like I told you in my Ouija board rules video. So there's this group of friends, and they decided that a haunted cemetery would be the best place to play with a Ouija board. And realistically, they probably didn't think anything was going to happen. It was just kind of like a fun thing they wanted to do. Well, they get to the cemetery and they find a place, they set up, and at first they're asking like the regular questions. Is anyone here? What's your name? Nothing really happened. It wasn't doing anything. But then the planchette finally started moving and they got a little nervous. So at first it was spelling out regular stuff. Like I think the first thing it spelled was like Sarah. So like, oh, maybe it's somebody that is in the cemetery, But then they said that it got really heavy and dark and they started feeling like dread. Either way, they kind of just like laughed it off, whatever. It's just like, it's just the wind or something. And then the planchette started going crazy and just going to random letters. It wasn't really spelling anything. It was just aggressively flying all over the board, but none of them were moving it. And then they started to hear like a loud scream scraping sound from behind them. It was like something was dragging. Obviously they turned around and checked, but they didn't see anything. So they said it just felt like almost suffocating. And the one who got touched on the shoulder or felt like something touched their shoulder started to see a like humanoid shadow figure out of the corner of their eye, but it had no features and it was extremely tall. Now we know in every friend group there's the stubborn friend. So the planchette starts spelling out run. So all the friends besides one were like, okay, pack it up, we're ready to go. So they start to pack up the board and one of the friends is like, no, I'm not leaving here yet. I need more answers. And so as this friend is sitting, just staring off into the darkness, like behind these tombstones, waiting for an answer, the friends are like stood back and they're like, no, we don't want anything to do with this. All of a sudden, this friend starts screaming and they run to check on him, and he has 4 bleeding claw marks in his arm. At this point, they just leave the Ouija board there and they leave the freaking cemetery. But unfortunately, when you do something like this and you don't close out the board, you leave that portal open. So whatever they contacted and let in, it was still able to mess with them. So they all had paranormal activity going on in their houses. They were having nightmares. There were things moving around their homes. They were seeing shadow figures out of the corner of their eyes. Some would hear like whispers at night, and the one who got scratched still has the scars. They did end up asking for help to get cleansed, and someone who is familiar with cleansing actually did cleanse them, and they went back in, I guess, got the Ouija board and cleansed it and stuff, but they said that it didn't fully work. Some of them still experience paranormal activity. I mean, yeah, you invited something in and you didn't close it out, and you did not, honestly, you broke all the freaking rules. You played in a cemetery and you didn't close the board out. You asked for that trouble. My advice is always don't play with a Ouija board at all, but if you're going to, don't break the rules.
This is probably the scariest Ouija board story time that I have ever come across. For obvious reasons, this person thus wants to remain anonymous, so for the sake of the story, let's call her Lucy. So a few years ago, Lucy was living in Los Angeles. Her parents had just bought this brand new house. Soon after they moved into the home, they started to hear rumors of 5 teens who had played with the Ouija board and had mysteriously gone missing. Not long after they moved into this house, Lucy's parents went away for the weekend, leaving Lucy home alone until like Monday. Lucy decided to invite 5 of her friends to come over and play with the Ouija board because, I mean, why not? What could possibly go wrong? But they didn't want to play with just any Ouija board. They wanted to play with that specific Ouija board that the 5 teens who had gone missing had played with. Around town, they had heard rumors that that specific Ouija board had been buried in a house where no one ever went to anymore. So they decided to go to that specific house and dig in the backyard, and they actually came across the Ouija board. Even though the Ouija board was very worn down and faded, they were still able to use it. They decided to head over to Lucy's house since she was home alone. They set up the whole scenario. They lit up candles, they sat around it, and they started. At first, they were a bit skeptic because nothing was really happening. They decided to ask the board, is anyone there? And nothing happened. Just when they were about to just kind of give up on the planchette moved to yes. They were thrilled, but like scared at the same time, decided to continue asking the board questions. They asked the board what their name was, and the board answered with the name Annie. Annie went ahead and let them know that she had actually died in the same home where Lucy was now living at. They asked her how she died, and Annie answered, fire. Once she started to talk to them, the air around them became extremely cold, and they could sense like the atmosphere had shifted. Feeling the weight of the room starting to weigh down on her, the candles that they had lit up started to flicker. Then they heard a loud bang on the wall. One of the friends ended up looking to the side, and they saw the silhouette of a woman standing there staring right at them. This really scared them, so they decided to say goodbye to the board so they can close out the session. But the minute they say goodbye, the board or the planchette started to move, saying the word no, 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 like it did not want to end the session. They then started to hear whispers like surrounding them throughout the whole room, saying the words help or help me over and over again. Realizing that they had awakened something that they wanted absolutely nothing to do with, one of the friends grabbed a glass of water and poured it like over the board and started to yell, "Leave us alone." The whispers that they were hearing then turned into screams, and the planchette literally flew against the wall. This literally made the whole room erupt in complete chaos, and everybody got up and started running for their lives. The minute they left that room, the air felt completely light, and whatever presence was weighing down on them had disappeared. They decided to never speak of that night ever again, but the experience that happened that night haunted them, like till this day. Every single person that was in that room till this day still feels like Annie continues to watch them and stay like near them, still waiting for them to help her. A lot of them still claim to still hear faint cries in the middle of the night. They believe that they have opened something that they had absolutely no business opening, and till this day it remains open. Lucy's parents eventually ended up moving completely out of that state, but till this day, like, Lucy will still have nightmares about her experience.